where observations, righteous discussions unite people.
This is the Word Up Podcast.
Yes, I'm your host, OMNIETC, Omni, etc. Back at it again. So, the Democratic Party never ceases to amaze me at how inclusive they are. And it seems like their inclusive nature has included them in madness, chaos, anarchy. The quote unquote, not to sound like 47, right? The quote unquote radical left, truly radical left, cooks up and comes up with some of the most harebrained, most, for lack of a better word, psychotic ideas. And recently, let's say 2 days ago, there was a member of the DSA. Now, for those of you that don't know the DSA, it's the Democratic Socialists of America, right? They're just bad. It's bad. It's terrible. I'm an anti-socialist. I'm 100% capitalist. Capitalism and capitalist ideologies, and just the fact that we're in a capitalist society has done so much more for my bank account than believing in socialist ideals, right? I get it, sharing is caring and all of that, and we're taught that in school at a fundamental level. But if I have and I work my butt off to have, then I should have. I shouldn't work my butt off and you not do equal work to me or something of equal value to me, and then I have to give, half or a large portion of what I've earned to you for doing absolutely nothing. And at its core, that's what socialism is. Whether someone does or does not, whether or not they're actually capable of doing for themselves or not, whether or not they're able-bodied. And those that do earn and achieve must then give those earnings and achievements over, or at least a portion of those earnings and achievements over to individuals who don't or downright refuse to. And the reason why I stress the part of downright refuse to is because in America we do have able-bodied individuals. I just released a reel, right, of not a reel, a short here on YouTube about a man that on Caleb Hammer's show, by the way, Caleb Hammer of Financial Audit, his show, you can see that a lot of his content is of individuals who are entitled-minded, right? So I recently released a short of a man who literally, on a 1 million view count platform, a 1 million subscriber platform, a platform that feeds content to millions and is viewed by millions, he literally had the gall to say that he lies to the government just so that he receives the income. He's not trying his hardest. He's not trying his best. He's not trying to stick it out, to tough out a job, to tough out a situation. He's not trying to show up to work. He just wants a handout. And there are a lot of people like that. I'm not going to say it's the majority. I don't personally know that. I don't even think the system has a way at this point to actually scan for that, because if it did, most of those people would be in jail right now. Most of those people would be locked up. The benefits that they are receiving, that I pay for, and that hopefully you that pay your taxes, that is a hardworking citizen, you pay for, right? But the people that are gaming the system and scamming the system, I just think they're the worst people in America, and they need to be rooted out, because they're the number one reason why people who actually need services can't get sufficient or the maximum amount of services that they need. I'm talking about the sick, infirm, and the people that can't do for self, the people that aren't of able body, right? The people that actually need those services. The people that are gaming the system are taking away those benefits from the people who actually need it. And that's my first issue. But also the fact that I'm paying for something while, somebody is living life on the easy street, living off of the benefits that a portion of my taxes go to, right? I mean, if you're a tax-paying citizen, you should have a problem with that, because if the person is of able body, they need to be working like the rest of us. That's just what it is. And that's what society is. So I'm staunchly against socialism, people having a handout, but they've taken it to extremes. And in a recent interview, Megan Romer, one of the co-chairs of the DSA, had some very radical ideas to put forth. Very few Democrats have actually rooted them out and called them out on it. But I think if the Democrat Party has any hope, and I'm not saying that I want the Democrat Party to have hope, but if the Democrats have any hope in the next election cycle, they need to distance themselves. They need to call out, root out, distance themselves from the DSA. But without further ado, let's take a look. This is brought to us by Fox News. I know a lot of people are going to have a problem with Fox News because a lot of people have a problem with Fox News, but this is where it's at. And she said this on Fox News. And she agreed to these things, these terms that the DSA put forth. Without further ado, let's roll that footage. We're going to start off with Van Jones here.
I am tired of a set of people on the very far left in the Democratic Party, my party, telling us that in order for us to be progressives, we now have to believe ideas and support ideas that are completely nuts.
You got a set of defunding, decriminalizing, open borders. We have run that play and gotten our butts kicked. We don't need to do it a second time to see if the movie turns out any different.
Prominent Democrat.
Notice that in what he just said too, not Van Jones is spot on with what he said, psychotic that we're about to hear in this clip, but notice that the other guy, what's his name? Let me look back. Didn't have his name. I don't know him. But he said that we don't need to run this play because, well, it didn't work for us. So it's not really about your interests. It's not really about whether or not it works for their constituents, the people that support them, the people that lobby for them, the people that vote for them. It's really about whether or not it works for them getting elected. It works for them getting in position. It works for them so that they can get their guaranteed salary, whether or not the government stays open or not, which is another thing I have a huge problem with on both sides of the aisle, is that when the government shuts down, senators, congressmen, representatives still receive a paycheck. I think a portion of what they would receive that month or what have you, however they get paid or funded, I think a portion of their earnings for the time that the government's down should go to the people that are working in government positions by those circumstances, just because they can't get their act together. That's my personal belief. But anyway.
We don't need to do it a second time to see if the movie turns out any different.
Prominent Democrat voices pushing back on the growing influence of the Democratic Socialist candidates they say are ultimately going to hurt the Democrat Party. So let's talk about it with the national co-chair of the Democratic Socialists of America, Megan Romer. Megan, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Shannon.
Okay, so there's this growing conversation about whether you can exist within the party, whether you want to upend it for your own purposes, a totally different platform. The Daily Economy quotes you saying this at a DSA convention last year: "We will win by making conditions so intolerable for the ruling class that they would rather give in to our demands than continue to live with the disturbance we cause until we are able to fully seize power ourselves." Is that aimed at the Democrat Party?
It's aimed from the working class to the ruling class. So the two-party duopoly, the two corporate parties, it is aimed at both of them, and it comes from the working class.
So should Van Jones and Rahm Emanuel and James Carville and all of the establishment Democrats be worried about DSA plans from within their tent?
The establishment Democrats should be worried about the voters and about what the voters think and about what the constituency thinks. And right now they have not been delivering, and our candidates are and have been, and it's resonating with voters.
And see, I can agree with her on that. If nothing else, I can agree with her on that. But she is absolutely psychotic. and you're about to see why.
So Jamie Harrison, who was the DNC chair, after you guys had such a big night in New York City and knocking off some of those incumbents and having success with your candidates in the congressional primaries, he said, if you hate the Democratic Party, then don't run for our nomination. Don't use our resources. Don't rely on our volunteers. Don't use our infrastructure. Focus on building the party you actually support. Other Democrats out there saying this is a separate party, the DSA. You don't belong within the party. How do you respond to his statements there?
Yeah, I mean, the two parties have, over years and decades, created a system where ballot line access is extremely difficult for third parties. I also have been told a lot of times by Democrats, don't vote third party, it's wasting your vote. So we run on the Democratic ballot line where it makes sense. We run independents sometimes where that is a viable possibility, but it's a ballot line. And what matters is what the voters think. And the voters are overwhelmingly choosing our candidates.
They certainly did in New York and in other places, Colorado and others. It's not just a big city phenomenon.
So to translate for the layman, because the Democratic Party is inclusive, Republican Party wouldn't go for this at all, right? But because the Democratic Party is the party of inclusion and inclusivity, they were able to worm their way in. Really, they're the Socialists of America. They just put Democratic Socialists of America because they're with the Democratic Party. But this will undermine all Democratic efforts going forward.
Or just a blue coastal phenomenon. Okay, so we're going to put up on the screen a few of the things that are part of your platform, and I want to ask you, just give me sort of a true or false on these. Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay, replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
So you want to get rid of the Senate, the presidency, and the Supreme Court. You want to get rid of the government, because the three branches of the government, of the federal government, is Congress, the presidency, and the Supreme Court, legislative, executive, and judicial branch. Let's continue.
Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prison.
And saying defund the Pentagon, so you don't want a military budget. Are you insane? With as many enemies as America has, you want to defund the Pentagon, you want to defund the military. Are you insane? And you want to get rid of board. So you want no centralized government, you want no federal government, you want to get rid of the three branches of government as we know them. You want to get rid of our borders, and you want to get rid of our military. We don't have a country at that point, man. We will not have a country at that point. America will be up for grabs, right for the picking. We'll just be there to be taken. What are you talking about?
Prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then let's...
Government ownership of most large corporations. And people are upset when the president wants a portion of return on investment of corporations. Mind you, in the past, people have complained about, corporations being bailed out by the government. This administration seeks to have some ROI, so it's not just a bailout, but the corporations are on some level working with the government and funding the America coffers. But she wants flat out government ownership of corporations, just flat out 100% stakeholdership in. This is insanity. This is insane.
Let's go back through some of those then. Abolish the Senate. There are people who are in the Senate now who are very supportive of DSA. They lose their seats?
Well, the Senate is an anachronistic institution. It comes from the British House of Lords. It is made to protect power for, the Senate was part of the system that was made to make sure that the people didn't have too much of a say. So we want to expand Congress significantly, but make it a unicameral legislature.
Okay, and without the presidency and Supreme Court, so abolish ICE, would there be any...
Without any system of checks and balances, because each branch of the government is designed to check and balance another branch of the government. Congress is there to the representatives of the state, so each state has a voice, and one region and area has too much power, and then just the divisiveness of multiple humans in multiple regions in and of itself. So it kind of balances itself out, but also the executive branch, the president, can veto a bill that's on his desk. Of course, they can go back and override the veto if they have considering nobody has a change of heart. The judicial branch oversees and interprets the law, which to me, I think the Supreme Court has more power than any other branch of government, because there's something to be said about the power of interpretation. Like the executive branch can enforce the laws that are existing. The legislative branch can come up with the laws and think up laws and create laws and legislation. But the power of interpretation is really profound. They're really profound, really strong. Like if I can interpret the law to be a certain way, then that's just how the law is going to be interpreted throughout the courts, throughout the Americas. So, I think judicial branch is pretty strong with the power of interpretation, but still, like, that checks the Congress and checks what how the executive branch can execute. So if you get rid of the system that we have now in place, it better be another system with checks and balances, and it doesn't seem like you're accounting for that.
Enforcement of immigration laws, or with abolishing the border, we're not enforcing immigration laws, they go away.
Yeah, so again, this is part of this longer term plan, and part of it
But if you
includes,
can get there.
if we can get to the place where the U.S. is not destabilizing countries in order to mine them for resources, there will be significantly less migration.
What do you say to those, though, that would potentially destabilize the U.S.? Because there's only so much the economy can bear, and when you have a flood of people coming in, it might not work out economically, according to a lot of analyses, if you just open up the borders and there's no enforcement at all.
Well, we're not saying open the borders tomorrow. We're saying rebuild an economy and a society that works for everyone. And the open borders is part of a longer-term international plan that involves us stopping destabilizing countries. Most people who are coming to this country are coming as economic refugees, and we destabilized their country. We did that.
What did we do to Somalia? Because last time I checked, we support their entire GDP with the amount of money that they send back home to us. So what did we do there? I know that's one example, but I'm just saying, like, you can't say at every turn that America destabilized everybody else's country and that's why they're coming here, right? Like, what did we do with, like, the reason why Mexicans are coming across the south of the border is because they're trying to get away from Mexican gangs and the cartel. We didn't do that. Okay, well, we kind of did fund that back in the day. You know what? That's true. I'll give you that one. But still, when we have an administration that has shown that it is willing to take those elements out, like horrifically shown on national TV that we are blowing up boats, drug boats, and people have a problem with that. Like, to get rid of those elements in that so that they don't have to come here and they don't have to overload our borders. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand what these people want.
Well, a lot of, if you look at data, the Center for Immigration Studies says right now the households here in the U.S. that are headed up by people who are here illegally, nearly 61% of them are on some type of government or welfare program here in the U.S. Can we afford to do that? I mean, at some point you run out of resources.
Well, right now we make it very difficult for people to participate in society in such a way that they can avoid using services. So we want people to be able to work and live and go to school and actually participate, which means contributing to society and also getting what they need from society. It's a collective choice we can all make.
So if we talk about abolishing prisons, then does that make society better? I mean, is there anybody that should be incarcerated? I mean, rapists, child predators, murderers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the long-term plan, when we think about most people who are in prison, they are mostly in prison for crimes of poverty. So
she literally listed off rapists, child predators, and murderers, and you fire back with crimes of poverty. Okay, I don't have time to go deep into this because, I gotta work, so I gotta get up out of here. But this is wild to me, bro. Come on. I might actually do a whole live stream on this later. I'll have to look into this, dig into this deeper. But yeah, this is wild. This will not stand. I don't know who's going for this, but if they are, they need their head examined, because this is unconscionable. It's intolerable. It's downright unacceptable. Peace, love, health, wealth to you all. I hope you stay safe out there.
We don't follow all the hype. We don't bend to every view. We just sift through the minutiae till the real comes into view. Where we observe